You probably can't hear it because it's really light, but I can hear the pitter-patter of a whole bunch of little feet going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Because right behind you are the stairs going out of the Voodoo Garden, going upstairs. And there's this little gate that I put up there to keep the dogs. By the way, I have 3 now. Not just Rascal, I have two more that I added to the flock. And they kind of want to be with me all the time. And that's really a nice thing, but they can't be down here in the Voodoo Garden. Rascal can be... Oh, by the way, welcome to the Voodoo Garden. My name is Ray. I am the host of the Voodoo Garden. Okay, back to the dogs. It was just a few weeks ago, I adopted 2 little ones, and they're called Tiki and Tanner. They're throwaway dogs that somebody didn't want. And it's a long story. I have a video, and the link is right below. Go down below when you're done with this, okay? Stay here for a while. And then after you're done, click on the link below and it'll explain the dogs, okay? Now that that's explained, I'll tell you what's going on. I come down here and I'm setting up the room because I wanted to, film an episode today. And, oh, by the way, what do you think of the angle? You like? I like this. Yeah. I actually put the camera outside of the Voodoo Garden and I'm in a different angle. I was getting kind of tired of the same old thing. So I was trying to figure out, how am I going to figure this out? I really don't have a lot of options in here. But I found an angle that I like. So I come down here, and this is the first time I filmed since I got the dogs. So I come downstairs, and I hear this whining and whining, and they're going back and forth, trying to figure out how to get downstairs, but they can't come downstairs. And but anyway, Rascal's having a really good time with them. Eventually, I'll have them come down into the Voodoo Garden, but I don't trust them yet because they haven't ever been down here. I got to make sure that I can sit here and watch them. And when I'm talking to you, I'm not really paying attention to what's going on down here. Rascal, it can be trusted. 100% I trust him with these plants. The other dogs, I don't know. Maybe she'll take a bite out of something that she's not supposed to. Tiki, the female. And, or pee on something. So I really don't know. So for a while, they're not going to be in the Voodoo Garden. Okay, now that I explained something that has absolutely nothing to do with this, I wanted to show you something. Well, I always want to show you something because there's always something to show. I mentioned this plant right here, my little bonsai. I call it bonsai poblano because that's what this thing is. This sad little wonder child is my bonsai. And it's supposed to be a poblano pepper. And at this age, it's supposed to be a lot bigger, probably about 4 to 5 times bigger by now. And it isn't. It just won't grow. And I've been giving tips, how to prune a plant, how to get them bushy, how to get them stocky and stuff. And I've been demonstrating on this one. Well, the thing is that it is getting stocky. So that is a success. The only thing that isn't a success is it decided it didn't want to grow. It has it in its mind that it wants to just grow flowers. And that's all it wants to do. Look at this. There are flowers and flower buds, by the way. See, these are flower buds all over the place. And I've been pinching off flowers as fast and furious as I possibly can. Oh, no. There's some on the back, too. No, it's not just on the front. They're everywhere, underneath, on top. And I got to admit, they smell wonderful. Have you ever smelled a pepper flower? Someday, when you get a minute, go up to your pepper plants and sniff. Yeah, it's a wonderful smell. It's soothing is what it is. I don't know, maybe it's some kind of a drug. But back to the problems I'm having with this. And I really can't say that they're problems because it's a strong, look, nice and sturdy. It did exactly what I wanted to do, but it just forgot to go up this way and it decided to start producing. Has nothing to do with the fertilizer I'm giving it because I'm giving all the plants the exact same fertilizer. The other plants are doing a totally different thing. So it's not in the fertilizer. That would be my first guess. So I'm thinking there's something going on with the genetics in this, and this one decided in its weird genetic strangeness that it didn't want to grow. It just wants to produce. And so maybe I have something here. Maybe I have a dwarf plant that wants to produce fruit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just let this do what it wants to do. I'm done fighting it. I'm going to, you can only fight nature for so long, and then eventually you just have to give up and accept it and smile. So that's what I think I'm going to do with this plant. I stop pruning off the flowers. I'm going to let it produce peppers and see what happens. And as a backup, Ray always has a backup plan. Yeah, I planted another one. Yeah, I planted this one on the 8th of March. It took a little while to germinate, and now it's growing. And I also did another backup because I got a surprise in the mail from a friend named Arthur on Facebook. Arthur wanted me to try this, and this unremarkable little thing hopefully is going to turn into a remarkable plant. This one is called a habanada. Habanada. I think I'm pronouncing this right, but you know what? Don't really care if I am or not. This is called a habanada. And what a habanada is a habanero pepper with no heat. There are a lot of people who like the flavor of habanero peppers, and they're a very popular pepper to grow. The problem is some folks can't stand the heat that a habanero puts out. It's way stronger than a jalapeno. Habaneros have a citrusy, it's hard to explain unless you actually taste one. And you can't taste one because it kills you because of the heat. So this one is a development of a habanero, and it will grow heatless peppers. And that fascinates me. So I decided to grow them. I planted the 5 seeds he sent me. 2 of them came up, 1 of them died, so I have 1 left. And I'm going to grow this one outside this summer and taste it. I'm going to do a taste test live on camera for the first time. I've never eaten a habanero in my life. All I know is what they say it tastes like, because I don't like really hot peppers. So I'm going to taste one of these live on camera. I'm going to give you my honest opinion of it, and if it's good, I'm going to save the seeds. Every single year I start a garden, I wonder, the first thing that I do is I wonder what different things are going to happen this year, because it's just like opening up a surprise package. You never know what's going to happen. And you know this, those of you that garden every year. Every year is a little bit different than the year before. And even if you grow the exact same things, there's always something new. And I really do like that about gardening. I was referencing that in my bonsai poblano pepper, and that's just the strangest thing. I've never seen that before, and I'm very amused by that. So it's even though it's not going to grow the way that I wanted it to, it's not a failure in my eyes, because it's something fascinating for me, and I'm going to grow it just the way that it wants to grow. Now I'm going to move on to tomatoes. I have other things other than vegetables to show you, because this is the voodoo garden. There's a lot more than just vegetables. We'll get to those in just a few seconds. There's a couple fascinating things I want to show you here, but first thing I got to do is I got to trim this thing. This is Boxcar Willie, and I've shown this in a bunch of episodes this season. I wanted to show you from seed to transplant to harvest, the whole process of growing my plants this year. And in the interest of doing that, I'm going to show you another episode, another step in what I do to grow my plants so that you could possibly grow them the same way I do and get crazy results. All right, come on over here, have a seat. I don't have a stool for you, so you just have to kneel down, because I like using this stool for my little table. And I don't care if it gets a little bit scratched. That's the thing. My tools are meant to be used. So these are a little bit squeaky. This is going to get a little bit used up, but that's just how I do things. I don't keep anything as a showpiece. If it isn't usable, I don't have it. So anyway, come on over here and let's finish trimming this up, because it's doing some strange stuff, but I also want to bring it down a little bit and show you what the base is doing. Now, real quick, for those of you who are new, and there are quite a few new people this week, this is called Boxcar Willie tomato. Boxcar Willie is an old-fashioned heirloom tomato that, and what that means is heirloom means that when you save the seeds from these tomatoes, they will breed true. That means that they'll put out a plant that'll put out the same fruit year after year after year. So you don't have to worry about buying new seeds every year. That's a wonderful thing about heirlooms. And the nice thing about this is, it's a multi-purpose tomato. It's incredible. Boxcar Willie is great. It has that rich, old-timey tomato flavor that if you're young, you don't remember, because back in the day, you used to be able to go to the store and get a tomato that smelled and tasted like a tomato. Nowadays, they just taste like red cardboard. But back in the day, you used to be able to get good tomatoes in the store. That was a tomato very similar to this. This, when you slice into it, you can smell the tomato. When you bite into it, it has the juice, it has the tangy flavor of an old-fashioned tomato. Now, this one's good for slicing. It's also perfect for sauce. And that's something that you don't normally do with a slicing tomatoes, make sauce. You usually grow paste tomatoes for that. Well, Boxcar Willie is good for all things tomatoes. Slicing, freezing, sauce, dried, anything you want to do, Boxcar Willie is your tomato. And another nice thing about it is it's prolific. It grows strong. It puts out an incredible amount of fruit. And we'll get to that later on in the season. I'm not going to do an advertisement for it right now, even though I did go crazy on it. But you'll see later on in the season. So if you don't have it now, don't worry. Next year, if you like what you see here, get yourself some Boxcar Willie tomato seeds and we'll work together and get yours growing just like mine. Now let's get to the growing aspect of this. I grew this from seed and I grew it up. Let me put this in your face. And I pruned it off, which means I just cut it back when it got about maybe, I don't know, 8 inches tall or a foot tall. And it put out suckers. Now those suckers are putting out more suckers. Now what a sucker is, people get the bad impression a sucker is bad. No, a sucker is nothing more than a new growing area of a plant. So if anybody tells you different, don't listen to them. And they'll also tell you that suckers will sap the strength of the plant and not produce much. Also false. Now I can say anything I want, but I back mine up with evidence, and evidence that you can see, taste, and enjoy. Last year, out of one seed, one plant, I got approximately, give or take, 20 gallons of tomatoes. 20 gallons of tomatoes. Just let that sink in for a while. That's not a boast, that's a reality. So I want to show you how you can grow your tomatoes like mine, because I'm no magician. All I do is grow this the way that nature would normally grow it. And that's, so what I'm going to do, well, nature doesn't normally prune them, so let's just throw that one out the window. But I bury it deep and I let it put down roots along its stems. And that's what tomatoes do naturally, and that's what they do best. Now this one has about maybe, I'd say, a month and a half to go before it can go outside. And as strong as this is, by the way, look at this, it's not being supported by anything. It is one stem with all of this tomato plant on top. Now you got to admit, that's a pretty strong plant that can hold that, but it's not going to hold it for long because it's growing so fast. Eventually, even the strongest tomato will fall over if it has too much weight on top. Now, what I want to do is buy myself some more time. Normally, I wouldn't prune this if I was going to plant it outside because I'd bury it real deep and let these stems grow some roots. Not time for that yet. So now what I have to do is slow it down. What I'm going to do is take off some of these strong suckers. And I know this is really kind of hard to watch, but no pain, no gain. Now, if you want to save yourself some money, plant one seed, grow a plant, and every time you cut off a sucker, cut it at an angle at the bottom, cut off these stems. Actually, I'll just show you how to do it, all right? You just cut these off. Don't cut them off exactly at the plant. Leave a little bit of a nub, okay, but not much. And then we cut this. We cut this, and the reason you want to cut so much off is when you root these, they have no roots, and they have to support this, and they can't do that without roots, so it's like a catch-22. So you want to take off all of the bottom stuff and just leave the top little cluster of leaves. Now see, it's got flowers. This thing has no business producing fruit this young, so the flowers have to come off. There, we have a little tuft, and we have a growing tip right here. We have a growing tip right there. This is picture perfect. Now, if you have a pot that is deep, you can just plant this in deep and water it. Keep it close to, keep it away from bright light for a few days. What's going to happen is these leaves are going to wilt just a little bit. That's normal. That's natural. That's perfectly okay. The world's not going to end. Then after a few days, they'll perk right back up. That means the roots are starting to grow along this stem. And then it'll start growing like mad, and you got a brand new plant. I would do that with this, but I don't need the extra plants. Now, I'm going to show you something. I actually did the exact same procedure that I'm mentioning with this. Yep, this is grown in a cup. This is nothing more than a teeny tiny cutting that I put in there not too long ago. And look, what a plant, huh? So you can do this. This is the result of this. And normally I wouldn't let it grow this big in a cup. But if you look back on last episode, you'll know why I'm putting this in a cup and I'm not taking it out of the cup. So there was that. I've taken the stem off of this, and you can see that there's another one coming up here. That will take its place. I'm going to do the same over here and take this one off all the way down. Yeah, it looks kind of drastic, but if you look up close, you can see, here's the one that I cut before, and it's got a stem. This one's got a stem. I'm going to do the exact same thing to this one right here, because it's got a little stem right there. So, down it goes. what's going to happen is these 3 stems are going to take the place of the 3 stems that were above it. But I've bought myself some time, and now it's no longer really top heavy. Also, every time I do this, the area behind the place where I cut gets thicker and stronger. Look at the strength on this tomato plant. Thick, strong tomato plants are going to hold their branches a lot easier, and also the thicker tomato stems are going to be able to push those nutrients into the other stems a lot faster and more efficiently. So every time you prune, you're actually helping the plant. You're not hurting the plant. Wow, that is a lot of tomato. And, oh, the smell is almost worth it cutting these things off. So yes, you can root these things, and like with what I just cut off here, I could have 3 extra plants. And if one plant can produce 2 people with more than enough tomato, and by the way, I have tomatoes from last year still in my chest freezer. I'm not going to be able to eat them all before I harvest these ones. That's how many tomatoes I got. So if you planted just these 3 cuttings and had this plant, you would have more than enough tomatoes for your family, your mother, your father, your kids, everybody you know. You'd be swamping them in delicious tomatoes and plenty of seeds to save for next year. And what the heck, while I have you down here, I'm going to just show you all of these other things. I was going to take the camera back and then introduce them, then bring the camera back, but that's a lot of work. All right, I'm just going to show you while you're here. This one is a tree, and I grew this from seeds. Next to Walmart, where Mike the Dishwasher works, there's a Dollar General. This is a store that sells everything for $1. And oh, by the way, this is not a treble giving me a hickey. This is my microphone, okay? I have a windscreen on it for outside. I didn't feel like taking it off. So stop looking at my treble over here. Look at the tree. This is going to be a huge tree. I grew it from the seeds that Mike brought because the pods hang over in the parking lot, and they're these long tubular pods, and there's a billion seeds in each one of them. Mike brought me a couple of the pods. I planted the seeds, and I have 2 of these growing in the voodoo garden, and this is the smaller of the 2. This is called a catalpa tree, and a catalpa tree has flowers, and the flowers have a beautiful smell, and they attract these worms that eat the leaves, but it doesn't really kill the tree. And the worms are used for fishing, or the caterpillars that are used for fishing, but they also attract birds to eat those, and I think that's going to be a delicious treat for the birds. And so I'm going to grow this inside until around May. Then I'm going to take it outside, and I'm going to show you how I grow a tree from seed to, I'm not pruning it. I want this to be a straight up tree, not a bush. I'm going to show you how I'm showing you how I grow it in here, and I just give it the brightest light possible because these things grow in full sun. So I have this right underneath a light bulb, 6 inches underneath my brightest light bulb. And I'm going to take this outside, harden it off because you got to harden them off before you get them outside, and I'll show you the process of doing that. Then I'm going to plant it in the yard, show you how I protect it, and just stay tuned in. Over the years, you're going to see this thing grow, flourish, and produce seeds and pods, hopefully. So that's going to be kind of nice. That's another aspect of the voodoo garden. And, oh, this surprise plant. Remember that plant that I had no idea what it was? Well, it made itself known. Can you guess what this is just by looking at the flowers? What do you think? What's your guess? Okay, this is called Celosia. I'm going to put the name right here. Celosia. Yeah, somebody sent me some seeds and they said it was for a certain kind of plant, but it turned out not to be that plant. And she messaged me and she felt really bad about it, but I told her, don't feel bad about it. I'm enjoying the heck out of this. I grew this from seed. How cool is that? And it's a decorative plant. It puts out these weird little flowers, and it's growing in the voodoo garden. So yeah, it's a bonus thing. So something, something that you might think is bad, like, oh, I didn't give them the right seeds. Don't worry about it. Sometimes it's a good thing. And they're having really cheap plants at the stores right now that the spring's coming out. And Mike, he likes aloes. And he found this thing in one of those itty bitty 2-inch pots. This thing was a little bit bigger than the pot itself. And he says, Ray, will you grow this for me? Of course. How could I say no? I like growing things. So this is Mike's plant. This is, I believe, a regular aloe. Isn't that a thick looking one? Yeah, kind of a chunky looking plant. I just planted it in here, gave it a little water, keep it in the bright light. And while we were there, I saw this, and I had to have this. I've always wanted one of these, and I didn't know what it was called. It's another type of aloe, I believe. It's just a little bit different than his, and it's got the little green dots on it, the little white dots on the green plant. Yeah, and yeah, I'm growing it, by the way, in the same potting mix that I grow everything else in. You might think, hey, they don't grow in that kind of potting mix. They need to grow in sandy soil. Well, no, they don't. I grow them in my potting mix, but here's the difference. Normally I put in about 4 parts potting mix, 1 part vermiculite. This one I put in about 2 to 3 times as much vermiculite to really lighten it up so that these would feel like they're growing more in sand, but they get the nutrition of the potting mix. And I've never had a problem with that. So those are the other plants growing in the Voodoo Garden. Now I'm going to back up the camera, have a seat, and I'll talk to you then. Oh crap, there was one. Darn it, darn it. I had this all set up, but I don't plan anything out. I try to plan things out, but they never seem to work out that way. I have one, if you got a second, just one last thing to show you. Don't move, don't move. I'll bring it to you, okay? I think that'll be the easier way. It's a heavy one, but it's worth the haul. This is my Buddha belly, and you've seen the Buddha belly growing there. And it put out flowers not too long ago, and I showed them. But the weird thing is it had been putting out flowers for months. It would put out a flower stalk, they'd go out, you know, they come out, they die, more flowers, they die. And I tried pollinating them, it didn't work. But look at this. Let me try not to drop it while I'm showing you. I'm kind of shaky because this is heavy. Look at this. Can you see it? It finally pollinated and I got a pod, and that thing's growing by the day. I'm going to be showing this in updates because I have no idea what's going to happen. It's a seed pod. I'm just proud as punch. I'm the new daddy of a seed pod for Buddha belly, and I can finally have seeds for this thing. I'm going to be a daddy. I love it. Anyway, thank you everybody for joining me in the Voodoo Garden for my little show and tell episode. If you have any questions concerning anything, concerning gardening, or you just want to say hi, post it in the comment section below. I will get back to you as soon as possible. I got to get this room back together because I got other things I got to do. I got my little whiny army up there. Anyway, by the way, if you have a moment, check out the video in the link below, and I'll see you over on the Praxis channel coming up Monday. I got an episode coming up Monday you don't want to miss. All right, everybody, thank you for joining me. I really do appreciate it. This is Ray and his little babies in the Voodoo Garden. We are out of here. Okay, cleanup time. Cleanup time. I got no crew. I got no Rascal. He didn't make an appearance. He's got new friends.